today is not so bad. So distributive property. Does anybody remember from last year what this would be? Anybody have any idea? Yeah. So there's parentheses and there's numbers and letters inside, and you're going to use like kind of like rainbow multiplication in a way, kind of. All right, so the first thing I'm going to show you is what it looks like, okay? So I don't care which one you do. If you'd rather do it in letters or numbers, sometimes people see it better in numbers because that's more of an example. Letters, you can do either one you want. I kind of like the numbers better so I can actually see what's happening. So distributive properties, basically you're going to take that 3 and you're going to distribute it throughout the whole thing, okay? And we'll talk about it a little more. Just get this written down and then we'll practice some. Like I said, I don't care what you use, the numbers or the letters. It's up to you. Alright, I'm going to move to the next page. Anybody still need this? Okay, so I'm just going to start this one right here. On a normal day, how would you solve that? Without distributive property, what would you do, Lauren? Okay, but 3 plus 1 and then times by 8, right? That's what a lot of you would do. But instead of doing that, we're going to use the distributive property. A lot of you might say, well, why are we using the distributive property when we can just do it regularly? And the reason why is because when you get to things like this, can we do that? Can we take m plus 6 and then multiply by 5? We can't do that. So that's the reason why we have to learn the distributive property, because there might be times that we can't add those two things together in those parentheses. So for example, what you're going to do is you're going to take 8 times 3, which is 24, plus 8 times 1, 8, and you're going to add them together. Now here's what a lot of people do not do. They forget to actually distribute to the next one. I can't tell you how many times that people would put this. So many people would do that because they don't distribute that 8 to that 1. It has to go throughout the whole thing. It has to. Okay? Any questions on this part right now? Not so bad, right? Okay, now let's talk about this one over here. Now, when you get subtraction signs and negative signs, it gets a little, I don't know, gets a little hairy, gets a little tricky, yeah. And the reason why is because what do we do with these signs? Do we count them as subtraction signs? Do we count them as negative signs? What do we do? Okay? So I'm going to show you 2 ways to do it, and I don't care which way you like the best. It's up to you. Okay? I know which way I like, but you can do whichever way you like. Okay? So first thing I'm going to do, this is way number 1. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take negative 2 times 3, which would be negative 6. And then some people like to take this sign and move it down, and that's fine. And then they would do negative 2 times 1, which would be negative 2. And then it would look like this. Well, what do I do with this then? Keep, change, change. I end up with this. Okay? Some people do it that way. Now let me show you an easier way. Okay? Negative 2 times 3, negative 6. Now this is the difference. They'll say negative 2 times negative 1. What's negative 2 times negative 1? Positive 2, right? Look at it. It's the same thing, and I got the same answer. Okay? So you can either do it first way, where you bring the sign down and then just use this, pretend that's a positive number, or you can do it the second way, take this as a negative, and then take this whole thing as a negative, and then it turns into the exact same problem. Well, it depends what sign is in the middle here. It might be a subtraction sign. Okay, but remember what happened here? It was a subtraction, and then it was a negative 2. Remember that? And then it looked like this. Right? And then I keep, change, change, and then it still turns into this. No matter what. It's still always going to turn into that. Okay, well, so what's negative 2 times negative 1? Positive 2, right? So plus 2. Okay, so whatever your sign is for that number, that's the sign you're going to use in the middle. Okay. No, it works for anything. Works for anything. You guys want to do another one of those with a negative? Okay, let's do another one of those. Let's do like negative 3 and then 4 minus 2. We'll stick with simple, or that should have been what? Yeah, minus 2. Okay, so I don't know what you like to do the best. I like the second way the best because it takes out a step. I don't got to worry about it. So then I say, okay, so negative 3 times 4, negative 12. And then negative 3 times negative 2. What happened here? There we go. Negative 3 times negative 2 is positive 6, right? So plus 6. And the negative 6 would be my answer. Right. If you did it the first way, it would look like this. Negative 12 minus a negative 6. Keep change chain. Guess what? It looks like this anyway. That would be your answer. Okay? So to me, the second way is the easiest. You eliminate a step. You can do it easily in your head, but it's up to you of however you want to do it. Oh, 35M. No, I can't put them together because this doesn't have an M with it. It doesn't have an M. Together that look alike, and those two things don't look alike. That's why this is the answer. Okay, any questions on that so far? Okay, so what am I going to do over here? What's the first thing you should do, probably? A 1, yep. So it looks like this. All right, so this is where you can use either way you want. I'm just going to do 3 times 1 is 3x. And then 3, I'm going to make this a negative 1. 3 times negative 1, negative 3. And that's my answer. Can't go any farther? Done. Any questions on how to do this? Pretty simple today, right? It's probably a good thing it's a half a period or whatever. All right, now let me show you what else you're going to see. You might see some fractions in there, but don't worry because it's going to be fractions you can do in your head. Okay, it's not going to be a big deal. Now let me show you 2/3 and then d minus 3. So first of all, I'm going to put a 1. And anything times 1 is itself. Okay, so don't let fractions freak you out. Because anything times 1 is itself. So what's 2/3 times 1? 2/3, yep. And then 2/3 times negative 3. So don't freak out. So what's 2/3 of 3? If you don't know, 2/3 times 3 over 1 is 6 over 3, which is 2. That's it. 2/3 times negative 3 would be negative 2. It is literally in the fraction. You're right. When they give you fractions, it's going to be things that are easy. 3 1/3. 3. Good job. What's 1/3 of 3? 1. 4. If you aren't sure, it's okay to do this. It's okay to do that out if you aren't sure. You shouldn't have to do that, okay? Questions on fractions? Anybody? Okay. All right, so then they're going to give you something like this. And they're going to tell you to write this in the distributive property. So 8 or 3.5 times 8. Now this is a lot easier than you think. A lot easier than you think. So what are you multiplying this whole number by? What are you multiplying that by? Okay. And can I split this up to make it easy? Okay, so this is how you can do this. If you're multiplying this whole thing by 8, guess what can go on the outside? 8. And then guess what can go on the inside? Yep, and that's how you would solve it using distributive property. So what you're going to do is break up your fraction, put it in your parentheses. This one will go on the outside, and then you can solve 8 times 3 is 24. 8 times a half is 4. Guess what? The answer is 28. And you didn't even have, you're supposed to solve them in the end. And if you're like me, I would have had to do it all out if I didn't do distributive property. Here, what are you going to break apart here? 2 and 2/3. So 2 plus 2/3 is, because I'm really multiplying all that stuff by 6. Then I can easily do that in my head without having to go through my whole process of multiplying fractions. So I get 12 here. 2/3 of 6, 4, and 16 would be my. That's a lot easier than multiplying and like making it improper fractions and all that good stuff. This is part of your homework today. I know, in my head I thought 18 and then I remembered it was 16, so that's why it's 6. Sorry. It happens. Okay, any questions so far? Any questions? Yeah. All right, last thing they're going to do with you is this. They're going to use distributive property to find these mentally, and we did do this last year. And it's just like what we did before with the fractions, okay? So, super simple. I'm going to take this and I'm going to split it into two things that I know. 22 is 20 plus 2. Or I could use 11. 11, that works too. I could easily use that. There's different ones you could use. Multiply by 6. This is how it's going to look, and it's an easy way you can do it in your head mentally. So if I was going to do it, what would you do here? 30 and 1. Multiply by 5. Well, I know that's going to be 150 plus 5, 155. And that's faster than me doing the multiplication now. What's that? Yeah. But in today's homework, I want you to use the distributive property. Don't do this. I'm going to count it wrong if you do that, because that's not what we're learning today. You have to use the distributive property today, because that's what we're learning. What would you break this into? 10 and 3. Whoops. But you know, here's the thing. If you're going to do it mentally, why wouldn't you break it into 10s and 5s? Break it into something that you can do in your head. Because can you do 10 times 5? Yeah, in your head. Plus 15, 65. Break it into easy things. 10s, 5s. Make it easy. Things you can do in your head. Don't make it into these goofy numbers like, I don't know, 6 and 7. Make it easy things for you. Yeah, you could easily do this without writing it down. Easily. Maybe. I want to know what you split it into. Other than that, I don't care what you do. First, you have to show me this. And if you can do it in your head after that, fine. Is that all right? I have to see something though, because otherwise, what doesn't tell me you're just doing this on some scratch paper beside you or on your desk or whatever. You have to show me the distributive property in some form today, because that's what we're talking about. Okay. Questions for me? I have a story problem, but I'm going to wait on that, I think. Today is not, I don't think there's any story problems today. I think we'll come back and we'll talk about story problems maybe tomorrow, just a hair a little bit. Okay?